when they say it's not a commandment, I don't know about that. The word porneia, that is usually translated adultery, in a lot of, one of the things that is a problem in the Bible on this subject of sex outside of marriage is that there is a Greek word called porneia that is often translated fornication. Now the trouble with the word fornication in English is, boy, that does not come across anywhere, does it? It's an archaic word. It's a creepy word. Nobody knows what in the world it means. However, if you take away the word fornication, usually in the modern translation it puts in sexual immorality, and that's really too nebulous. What you constantly find, though, is in the New Testament, when they talk about sexual sins, they'll say, stay away from fornication, and then they'll say, stay away from adultery, in the same line. Because the word fornication is bigger than adultery. Adultery means having sex with somebody who is not your spouse. Fornication is a bigger term that really means having sex with anybody except somebody you're married to. In other words, adultery is one form of fornication. Premarital sex is another form. So it's a broader term. The real problem is that everybody knows that's what the term means. I mean, you can look up in any Greek dictionary, but there is no decent way to somehow get it across in an English translation. As a result, people say it's not a commandment. But it's implicit, really, in the thou shalt not commit adultery, because many places the word porneia is used for, without going into detail. I think the word adultery there probably in the Ten Commandments does mean more than just simply, don't cheat on your spouse. I have, if you want something though, it's relatively simple. I mean, in a way, relatively simple is that the Bible says that your body and your soul really are more connected than people want to think. Sex is actually a complete nakedness with somebody and a complete union with somebody. And the Bible says you shouldn't do with your body what you're not going to do with the rest of your life. In other words, to be naked means to be completely vulnerable and to be completely one. And if you say, I want to have bodily oneness with you, but I don't want to have economic oneness, I don't want to have legal oneness, I don't want to be actually truly vulnerable to you. In other words, I don't want to commit myself to you forever. I don't want to get up before all the authority structures and get married. I mean, I've had plenty of people, say, well, what's wrong with sex outside marriage? The answer is the Bible says God invented sex as a way to say to somebody else, I belong completely and exclusively to you. So if you use sex to say something else, you really destroy the ability for sex to work, because sex is a covenant renewal ceremony. This is really going to zip my brother out back here. Sex between a husband and a wife is the same role as the Lord's Supper between God and the believer. Because the Lord's Supper is going back and renewing the original covenant. Jesus Christ dies. That's the bridge between me and God. What's the purpose of the Lord's Supper? The Lord's Supper is to get the intimacy back by renewing the covenant, reliving the idea of Jesus Christ's death and resurrection for me. In sex, you go back and you're redoing your marriage. You're going back and you're getting naked again, which is what happens when you get married. You get completely vulnerable. You say, I belong completely and exclusively to you. I'm no longer my own. I can't make independent decisions. I'm legally one with you. I'm financially one with you. All that. So marriage sex is supposed to be a covenant renewal ceremony, a renewal of this complete oneness that happens when you get married. If instead you don't use it that way, sex doesn't operate the way it's supposed to. Sex is a way of making you committed. Sex is a way of deepening your commitment. If you use sex with somebody you're not completely and totally and absolutely one and committed to, you ruin its ability to do that. And you therefore, since you haven't done it yet, you say you're planning to do it, you haven't done it yet, you don't know whether you're committed or not. You're guessing. I mean, I may be absolutely sure I'm willing to go to the dentist until actually the morning I wake up and I say, no. And I call in sick. I was sure I was willing until that actually came to it. So until you really know, until you've done it, you don't know you don't know it. That's all. I mean, what I'm trying to give you is not, here's the law. I think when you talk with your friends about it, it's important, or even when you talk to your own heart about it, it's important for you to know what's the logic. What's the biblical Christian logic? Why no? I've got these desires. See, that's the question. And I think the answer is your desires are not served well by sex until it really is mirroring and until it's actually renewal of the covenant. That's what it's for. Until you got a covenant to renew, it really isn't going to do what you know it can do. And I'd say most people who've had sex outside marriage and sex inside a good marriage know that they're really two fairly different things, radically different things.